Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to be a backyard mechanic. I've been doing the backyard mechanics for over 7 years. I've started to work on my cars ever since I've had my first used car, and it was a Toyota Celica 2000. It was a manual transmission, and then it had these rust, and then this is when I started to work on cars. I started to fix these rust, and then afterwards I sold that Celica for a Honda Prelude. After that, I found that the taillights were not as cool as I thought they were, so I changed them for a style RX6 style on the Prelude. And this is a second job which I've done when I was much younger. And then I leaned toward the BMW 325 1992. It was an extremely rare E36, extremely clean. It was white. This is how it looks like. Very nice, right? And then the rear brakes had to be changed, and this is the moment in the year which I bought my first Ratchet tool set from Canadian Tire, which is a auto parts tool store for Canadians, but it's similar to like Walmart, which they have a lot of stuff, So yeah, I'm gonna go through every tool I use most of the times, and I'm gonna teach you, give you some tips on some tools which I use a lot, and the tools you'll need for certain jobs. And yeah, and we'll go through my toolbox. I am not a mechanic. I'm currently finishing my bachelor in electrical engineering degree, so I am not in mechanic as everyone thinks. It's my hobby. Alright, so guys, welcome to my little garage shop. This is what I use for my hobby, mechanic hobby. Like I said earlier, this is not my job or anything. I really like working on cars. So we're gonna start with some basic tools for you guys who never worked on some cars. I'm using the light here because my garage neon is not very light. It's not very strong, sorry. So we have a set of wrenches right here. We'll start from here. You have these smaller ratchet, which is open end and close end. Usually for most boats you use the close end because you want your boat to be bitten as much as possible. And the open end, usually it's to hold the boat from moving, or for tight spaces, that's when you use it. Or usually, for example, the 21 or the 22 is mostly for the oxygen sensor. It's open head because you cannot, there's like cable coming out, so no matter how you put it, you cannot use the closed head, and this is when you use the open head. And then I have a various ratcheting wrenches. So basically they're like they would move like this here, so you can quickly move as you go along like this. And this is when it's like for very tight spaces and you cannot fit a ratchet socket, which I will show you guys soon. So these are the ratchets. These are the long sockets, deep sockets they are called. These are the shorter ones. But yeah, I use these a lot, but do not use for very high torque. I usually use these because these are like closed, and they're like much more durable. So you can put this on a bolt and then use a hammer and hit on it. And then I have this is the compressor. It's to test how healthy your engine is in each cylinder. I have a BMW video if you want to find out how to use this tool. I have here a oil filter remover. Actually, so when you wrench it, it just tightens up so it fits the filter. This doesn't work on Honda or Toyota. I bought this by error and it never fitted. So what I use is to change oil. I used these pliers. I'm not sure if it's called pliers or wrenches. I'm sorry for my English. These ones, these are very big, adjustable. if it's anything. If you're changing the filter, doesn't matter if you're biting it, you're like destroying the filter, as long as it's been loosening properly. And then I have well, I have two very cheap vice grips. Actually, this one is very cheap. It was like $4, and as you can see, the teeth are all, you know, chewed. It's really worth investing into expensive vice grip, guys. It's really worth it. These are usually $40. The expensive one really bites, so it's worth the investment. It's gonna save you tons of time. I also have a Exacto. I'm not sure if that's what it's called in English. This cube here, it's for various cars. It's for the calipers pin, the piston. Sorry, it's for the caliper piston. It's to, you see, there's like edges here. You know, sometimes the piston is not just, you know, empty end, and there's like a cross or something. So these, you know, these edges here are made to bite into the cross, so you can twist it and push the piston in when you change your brakes. I have the 1/4 ratchet here. You know, long nose pliers. I have you know, these are Sae Allen wrenches, universal, but I never used it. It doesn't work that well. I have here a kit which I use a lot. These here, I'm sorry, kits. Okay, I have these here. These are Allen's. It's made for a 3/8 ratchet, so you'll get much more torque than this one here. And this one here most of the time doesn't fit the spaces, and it's SAE. These are metric, so starting from 4, 5, 6, 7, blah blah blah. All the Allens you'll ever need are right here. What else do I have here? I have these are greases for your spark plugs. Very useful if you don't want to, you know, have your spark plugs stuck. This is a gasket maker, ultra copper. Ultra copper is usually used for the exhaust. This is what I use for. I have a white lithium grease. These are good for U joints or greasing up, you know, your brake pedal, your clutch pedal. This is accelerator pedal. This is very good. And then I have some very soft blue towels, which are very useful. Let's take a look at my, you know, sprays that I would like to clarify. Alright guys, so in YouTube or some of the DIYs online tells you to use the WD-40. And the WD-40, just to let you guys know, is not a rust penetrant, it is a lubricant. If you read carefully on it, it says stop squeaks, cleans and protects, loosen rusted parts. And this is not true though. It barely works for rusted parts. Most of the time, this is used to lubricate, for example, your exhaust hangers, the rubbers, is to make it more, you know, make it more, how do you say it, juicy? Make it more slippery so you can easily unhook the exhaust hanger. So, like I said, this is a lubricant, guys. Most real mechanics do not use this to loosen rusted bolts. This is what you need, guys. This is a penetrating or penetrator. This is what you use for rusted bolts, guys. Do not make the newbie mistake and listen to someone saying, hey, spray some WD-40 on your rusted bolt. This is not true, absolutely not true. This is what you use. There's PB Blaster, there's a Liquid Wrench, very good ones, but this is one of among the top ones for rusted bolts. Extremely helpful. It really penetrates deep into the bolt. I also have engine spray right here. This is what I use when I buy a high-end car or, you know, low-end car, and I store it in the winter. Fuel stabilizer. It's good to, if you store a car, have a full tank of gas and put 100 milliliters into your gas tank to kill the the humidity within the gas tank, but usually people don't suggest it. The super grease right here is what I use for the brake pedals if it's squeaky, or the clutch pedal or the accelerator. You hear like this is what I use usually for the bearings or stuff like that, the axles, not very heavy stuffs. I also have a WD-40 industrial grade one, which is better, stronger than the original one. I have brake cleaners. This is for when you buy brand new rotors and there's like oil on your rotors, so you must use this beforehand, before test driving your car. Just spray this on both sides of your rotor, use a towel to wipe it out, and you'll be removing the oil. The reason why there's oil on the rotors is because when they have the storage, and they don't know how long they're gonna keep it in the storage, so they put oil for the rotors to not be rusted, and when they ship it to the customer, when they receive it, it's gonna look brand new. I have the synthetic brake lubricant. These are very good for your brake pads. A lot of people on the DIYs forget to put this, but I guess sometimes you don't need to, because of the new brake pads. They come with like anti-squeal metal plates, and some brake pad tabs. I'm not sure what it's called, or stuff like that. Metal tabs, or metal, let me think the word, metal brackets, there you go. And they say that you don't need them, but I always clean my calipers, the brackets as well, and I put a lot of these brake lubricants. I'm very generous, and that's why I keep my brakes very well maintained. I also have the NTCs right here. These are very good for especially your wheel lugs when you're changing winter, summer wheels. These are very good to put on your wheels and around the hub, center hub, for it to not rust. It works perfectly well. I need to buy another one because this one is missing out. I have some brake fluid right here. This one here is a power steering fluid. It's brand new. What else? I have this is Deep Creep. It's like a sea foam, but in spray. I also have a contact cleaner, which works very well, but it's basically alcohol in the spray bottle form. What else? Oh yes, working on cars, you'll need a breaker bar. Breaker bar is long like this, as you can see. And breaker bars, usually it's used for when the bolts are very tight. Usually it happens when it's on the suspension mounts, not suspension mounts, sorry, the lower suspension bolt. These are usually very rusted, or either rusted or very tight. Wheel lugs, you use this as well. Wheel lugs, well, what else? Engine mounts, control arms mounts, a lot of stuff which are usually over 17 millimeters. You use the breaker bar. I have here the wire cutter, and I have here the wire stripper. You have different gauges, which comes with the wire. What's it called? Sorry, the wire stripper. There you go, wire stripper. They have different gauges, so it's very cool. And then I have this adapter, which is for my impact, to be able to use a smaller 3/8. So it's a 3/8 to 1.5 adapter. I have the 24, 25 socket right here, which doesn't come with the kit. So this is a basic kit that you would buy for $100 or less at an auto store or Canadian Tire, for example. It will come with various sizes, but usually it doesn't come with what you usually really need. For example, the long sockets, it doesn't come with the 16 millimeter and the 12 millimeter. It doesn't come either, because they know that these two are somewhat important, so they don't want just to include it. But probably more expensive kits comes with it, but mine didn't. At least mine came with the spark plugs socket. The reason why you want to use spark plug sockets, it's because they have a magnet inside. So whenever you unloosen the spark plug, and this will magnetize the spark plug, and whenever you remove it, it's gonna come out with the spark plug. That's pretty cool, right? And then it comes with a very cheap, this is a angled 3/8. It works, sometimes it works. And then it comes also with your basic 1.5 ratchet, 3/8 ratchet. And then it comes with also Torx, which I don't really use a lot. And then I just recently broke the 3/8 extension, so it is very cheap. This one I don't think you'll break. So with this toolbox you can do a lot of job, including brake jobs. Of course you will need a set of wrenches, close end, that will help a lot. And then I have few screwdrivers. I lost one of them. I used to have a flathead, but I hope you guys know the difference, because the Phillips, for example, they have a difference, right? You cannot use this, for example. You see how pointy it is? This is a very, very pointy Phillips. It means it's a number 1, and I have bigger Phillips around here. Okay, sorry. This is the number 1 right here, and this is number 2. Sorry for the focus, but as you can see, the number 2 is much thicker and bigger than the number 1. If the screw is made, if you use the screwdriver, it's supposed to fit extremely tight. Okay, guys, it's not like it's gonna wiggle around or something. If it wiggles, it means you're using the wrong screwdriver, especially for the Phillips, and it's gonna strip the screw, and you'll be left with a dead screw. Of course, there's a lot of methods to extract it. It's called the screw extractors or bolt extractor, but I'm just telling you guys that your screwdriver is supposed to fit extremely well. The number 1 cannot be used on the number 2 because you're gonna strip it, and the number 1, you'll really need the number 1 because the number 2 will strip it. And then I have various screwdrivers. Oh, this is cool. This one here I bought from eBay. It's a how do you call it? It's a pen. Actually, when you press on it, it's gonna tap. Oh, it's gonna dig a hole on it. Actually, it's supposed to work. Okay. Okay, but it's supposed to hit. I think it's broken or something, but it's supposed to punch it. So this way you'll know where to drill with your screwdriver. Sorry, with your drill. It's an extremely cool tool. I really like it. I have a much smaller flathead, which I use a lot for the to remove brake piston boot, the slider pin bolts. Or I also use this to put on some of the snap springs. What else do I have? This is a scraper for usually for the decals, stuff like that. Oh, this works on the tint as well. I have a multimeter, which is used to measure voltages on the battery usually, or I use it to find closed short circuits. If you put it right here, you can find short circuit. It's gonna beep. But this is a really cheap one I bought from eBay. This is a great one. It's an Autolink Obd2 Reader, check engine reader. It can read check engines and transmission codes. I've used it. It's in color. It's about $50-$60. Really worth it. I also have in backup some tire. These are used to, what's it called? Those tire plug filler. In case you have a needle or your tire has a needle or something like that, you use this right here. It's like rubber, stuff like that, and it's used to plug the holes. It works great. Been using it for years. Never had a problem. I have a set. I have a 36 millimeter. These are for the BMW's oil filter housing. I have a 19 socket right here and 21 socket. Usually Honda is always 19. Toyota, Nissan always uses 21. This is why I have one here, and this I bought it because I had to change the axle on a Honda Civic. It's a 32 millimeter. And this right here is called a spring compressor, but it's not. It's made for. It's not made for McPherson springs, because of this right here. You see these two hooks. It's made for a much larger spring, it didn't fit properly the McPherson springs. And in this box right here is called a impact driver. Sorry. Okay, so for the impact driver, it's used to remove screws that are really tight. Usually, they are for Honda's rusted rotors. The rotors on it has 2 screws, and you have to punch the shit out of it in order to remove those screws. So how it works is, you hold this. If you want to remove a screw, you turn it to the side you want to remove, because you're removing, and you use the hammer and you hammer it, and the amount of power you're hitting with is gonna translate into the turning power of this impact, and it works extremely well. But sometimes you still have to hit the field 2 more times, and I've broken the bit right here. You can see I've broken the bit, but it works extremely well, I can tell you. Alright, so I have another pair of spring compressor. As you can see, this one has only 1 hook. These are made for much smaller springs, so this way it won't come out, and it has this thing, but it never worked, so I never used it. This is what I use to bleed myself the brakes. With this and the tube, I can bleed my own brakes without the help of someone. Right here I have a screwdriver and ratcheting one that has security torques, which this is why I bought it. Otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. Totally not worth it. It was like 40 bucks. I hope you guys can understand something if you don't work a lot on cars. You have a regular hammer, okay? Right here, it's extreme light. And then you have a rubber hammer. Rubber hammer is usually when you don't want to damage that part. It's too shiny or whatever. That's when you use the rubber hammer. But it's not very torquey. It doesn't produce a lot of power. So don't always use this. This is why I have this is a 16-ounce 4-pound hammer. With the 4-pound hammer, usually you can remove anything. I would rather maybe have just in case in backup, 6-pound or something or more, just in case. But with the 4-pound, I've done so many jobs that I wouldn't be able to do with a simple hammer. For example, you change your brakes, you have rollers, and it doesn't come out, and with this hammer right here, it will never come out, I tell you. But with the 4-pound hammer, in one blow or 2, you're gonna see the rotor is gonna come off right away. It's gonna come loose. I also have here a why do I always forget the names of the tools? Okay, so this is like, used to pry stuff. A prier, there you go, to pry stuff. And then I have a brush, metal brush. I have all sorts of bolts and everything at the bottom right here. Keep it. When I get more time, I'm gonna really clean it up. Buy some little small drawers. Divide individually every bolt. I also have a torch right here. It's not as good as the ones in garages. I have here a bottle of super cleaner, the greaser. I have some C-clamps. This C-clamp is used for caliper piston to push the calipers in. This is a C-clamp to remove bushings. It works extremely well, usually on ball joints, but it works on control arms bushings as well, but then it doesn't work on Hondas. It doesn't produce enough torque. And as you can see, it's starting to get worn out. You can see it here, but it's not that bad. Yeah, it's gonna still last. I have a ball joint extractor right here. This works extremely well. This works extremely well. It's to extract the ball joints, tie rods that are like frozen into the control arm or somewhere on the hub or whatever. This will remove it. It works extremely well. Don't waste your time. This is just 30-40 bucks on Amazon. Don't waste your time cutting, hammering something, and you're gonna find out that you just put it in between the ball joint this goes on to the ball joint, and this goes at the bottom where you tighten the bolt, and it's just gonna push it out, and you're gonna hear an explosion when it works. It's really cool. So I think I did a lot of tour of my small garage. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic, but there's another trick I want to show you guys today because you're here. Alright, so we use the breaker bar a lot to loosen bolts that are extremely tight. But what happens if you don't have this amount of space to work with? For example, a lot of us, we don't have lifts, right? We use the jack, and no matter what jack you use, there's no way you're gonna have this much clearance for the breaker bar, okay? A very cool trick that I've learned during the years is, for example, you have a ratchet right here, okay? You ratchet it, and then let's just do a quick example. And then there's this bolt which is super tight, like extremely tight, but you only have this much space to work with, or not even. So as you saw earlier, it won't fit the breaker bar because you only have this much space to work with. So what do? Well, there's a trick you can use is, so this is the, you see the 3/8 ratchet, and you can find yourself a deep socket that fits the end of your ratchet in order to extend it to have more leverage. More leverage results into more torque. This is just physical laws, right? And then what happens when you, for example, I broke my 3/8 extension, but then when you put more stuff behind it, you get this right here. It's not as long as the breaker bar. It's not as long as the breaker bar, okay? But you still get tons of leverage. So right here, you could have so much leverage just like this, you see? With two hands plus this much length, there's no way you're gonna not be able to remove it most of the times. But this is a great trick that I learned throughout the years, and through I think it was a friend or neighbor that taught me this. This is a very cool trick. So the extension of your ratchet extremely helps for your jobs if you don't have a adjustable ratchet. So this is a great cool trick for people like me who doesn't have expensive ratchets, and it gets you out most of the times out to finish the job. So it's very cool. So remember guys, extensioning your ratchet really works. It creates extremely more torque. It's just physical laws. That's it guys. And what else? Oh, for the ratchets, okay? As you can see, I don't have the long ones, okay? But a lot of the garages, they have the much longer ones, which create more torques. So sometimes what you can do, you can take another wrench and extend it like this right here. See? So you can one end turn it, and with the other hand help it out. So you kind of not double, but you'll be increasing your torque just because you're using two hands. Or you can just hold both ends like this. All the pressures are already applying on this part here, this corner right here. You can also always adjust it like this, or you can just play around with it to create the angle you want, the space you want. But like I said, a lot of the times you really need the ratchets because the space is tight, and this compared to the ratchet, especially mine, this is required most of the time. But this is why I have also the ratcheting ones. So this job I will use the normal ratchet to loosen the bolt, and then I will use the ratcheting ratchet to increase my working speed. This is extremely helpful, especially it has the it's open, so you can use the Allen on it to hold the bolt This is mostly important for usually end links. These are also known as the sway bar links, suspension top mount. It's very useful, this one here. It's worth it. It's about $50 for the kit, but I bought it 3 years ago. I also have I have 4 jack stands, the candles, also known as candles. I have a very cheap right here jack stand. Right here, this is the cheap jack stand. I don't trust it. I usually use it to raise the hubs because I'm lowering a car or something like that. And this is what I use truly. It's a 3-ton low profile slim jack. I've been using it for years. It's a Mastercraft brand, works extremely well. This is something I really trust. Works extremely well. And I usually have a cardboard so I can put it on the floor. I usually work on my driveway. There's some rocks. It's gonna hurt my butt, so I usually collect. I don't collect, but I keep one brand new box and I unfold it and I keep it as a floor mat. But eventually, I guess I will have to buy one, right? I have a drill here. This is a rotary tool, usually used to maybe remove some very stuck bolts or nuts. You can change it for a disc. And then what else? Oh yes, if you have a very weird security Torx or security screw that is on your car, and you use this and you put a disc on it and you turn and you grind off and you turn that screw into a Phillips, so this way you can use a normal Phillips screwdriver. This is a angle grinder. With the angle grinder you can cut a lot of metal, but it doesn't work very well on exhaust because even brand new the disc is not as big. Usually for the exhaust, this is what people uses. And then you use a metal cutter one. It works extremely well as well, but I don't really like using it. I have a small portable 20 volts impact driver. It works well, but there's not a lot of torque, and this is what I use mostly to remove wheel logs. It's a 7.5 ampere electrical impact driver, and this is what I use to polish my cars whenever they're too scratched. These are extension wires, cables. But I guess I went through everything I have in the garage today. I have some paints right here. Oh, golden cat. Hello. And that's about it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope I kind of shared something with you guys, because I know not a lot of people do mechanics, and including myself. I don't do it that often like people think. But I really like doing it. It's like a very cool hobby for me. And I know a lot of people never even held in ratchet. For example, my little brother, he never touched a car before, and I forced him to change wheels with me. This is when he learned how to use a breaker bar, at least, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little tour of my little garage. And if you have any questions I can always help you with, please leave a comment below, and please don't forget to subscribe. I will see you again. Hopefully I'll make another video, because it's getting really cold. I'm in my own garage and I'm like freezing right now. I can't wait to get back in my room and start, just chilling on my computer.